Hi, I'm Konstantin Baum, Master of Wine, and today I want to look at the Olympics of the wine world, the Wine Nerd World Cup, the Grand Prix of Somms. A couple of weeks ago, the ASI World's Best Sommelier competition took place in Paris, and many of you will have missed it. So today I want to look at the highlights and lowlights to see what it takes to win it. I do not call myself a sommelier because I believe this title belongs to the people working on the floor. However, I really enjoyed working as a somm back in the days, and I also enjoy competitions, so I've loosely followed the Sommelier World Championship for a while. But I had some discussions with people from the trade on whether this competition is still relevant, as many of the most famous somms are not necessarily famous for winning any of these competitions, and some parts of the competition itself seem a little bit outdated. The Association de la Sommellerie Internationale, short ASI, organizes this event roughly every 3 years, and the winner is a world champion for the rest of his life. The ASI World Championship is a pretty high-profile event. At the final in Paris, there were 4,000 people in the crowd, and the whole thing was live-streamed online. This must have been intimidating for the candidates, to say the least. Imagine trying to pass the most difficult exam of your career with thousands of people watching every move you take. The competitors are prepared though. Most of them have won the Best Sommelier Award in their home country, and they generally work as sommeliers on the floor every day. The pressure is high though because they've prepared for a long time, and winning the competition can lead to fame and fortune in an industry that doesn't necessarily provide you with lots of opportunities once you've reached the head sommelier position in a restaurant. The former Sommelier World Champions I know tend to be hardworking professionals with a great passion for wine and with the humbleness you get from competing against the best. But I don't just want to talk about the competition, I want to watch it together with you. So let's start at the beginning. In the first few rounds, the candidates are being tested in blind tastings, theory exams, and service tasks until they've selected the 3 finalists. In the final, Nina Jensen from Denmark, Raymond Thompson from Latvia, and Reese Choi from China were competing against each other for the title. Nina was the runner-up in the last World Championship, and Raymond was in 3rd place back then. All 3 contestants could have been the first Sommelier World Champion from their country, and Nina could have been the first woman to take the title. So the tall blonde guy on the stage is Andreas Larsen. He won the competition a few years ago, and he's going to tell Reese that his first challenge is that he's the sommelier in a restaurant, but the restaurant manager isn't there, so he's going to have to take over lots of different tasks that he maybe wouldn't necessarily do as a sommelier at the same time. So this is going to be interesting. There's always this element of surprise, a challenge that people didn't expect, in order to see how well the challengers are able to adapt.
The ladies will order some cocktails, a margarita and an old-fashioned. The 2 of us will have a glass of sparkling wine each. Thank you.
Sparkling wine, okay. So I'm going to prepare the drink for you. Thank you very much. Hi, very nice to meet you. My name is Reese, by the way. And I'm going to, the guest is, they ordered 1 margarita and 1 old-fashioned.
Of course. Do you know what would you like for the cocktails? Would you like salt rim for the margarita?
Yeah.
Would you like up?
That's a good question. I'm going to check for you.
So he actually should have asked that at the table, but well, in a situation like this, you forget things. And now he has to go back to the table and ask them again for how they want the drink to be served, which obviously takes up time and is probably going to cost him some points.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for the margarita. How would you like it?
Up with a salt rim.
I said, sorry?
Up with a salt rim.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much. So it's a straight up martini glass with short rim.
Awesome. I'm really sorry. Do you know if you like rye whiskey or bourbon into the old-fashioned?
Good question. So, sorry.
Okay, so here he should have also asked that. Obviously now he gets to go back to the table again to ask another thing about that drink, which is obviously a bit of a pain. But, well, this kind of stuff always happens.
Would you like to have your old-fashioned with a bourbon or rye whiskey?
With rye whiskey, please.
Rye whiskey, sorry. Thank you very much. Yeah, rye whiskey would be good, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm going to pour the sparkling wine and you do the cocktails. Thank you. It's very nice to meet you. How are you today? Very good.
Very good, thank you.
I'm sorry for I'm not a cocktail guy, but I'm going to pour you some sparkling wine. So we have 3 selections, actually. We have a Prosecco from Italy.
So now he's going back again with the drinks in his hand. He probably could have cut down on the trips back and forth, but like I said, if you're under pressure, that must be really difficult to kind of get everything organized in your head. They are also scored on the way they approach the table. They have to circle the table clockwise. They have to check whether the glasses are fine, whether the bottles have the right temperature based on what they feel like in their hand, all those things. On top of that, they have to have a conversation with the guest, tell them some stuff about the drinks that they are having. So it's very challenging to get all that into, 3 minutes and not make any mistakes. So now he has to do another challenge where he has 2 tables, having to balance off different tasks at these 2 tables because he just has too much to do at the same time. So this would stress me out. I'm pretty sure about this. I think he does a pretty good job considering that there are 4,000 people looking at everything he does. And on top of that, all of the people that sit at those tables are either really well-known wine professionals or they are former world champions.
So hi, very nice to meet you. Welcome to the restaurant. So I'm serving the red wine to the other table. Maybe I can get you some water.
Our guest just arrived. We ordered a bottle of 2013 Dom Perignon. Please serve it right away.
Certainly, no problem. So 2013 Dom Perignon. coming back with that.
So now these guests want their champagne straight away. 2013 Dom Perignon. So he has to serve it and then return to the other table to finish decanting a bottle of red wine.
It's aged on the list for 8 to 10 around. On the list, aging is a very complex champagne with half and half Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Dosage is about 5 to 6 grams per liter.
So they're testing him on his wine knowledge, obviously, as well. And I think most of the things he says sound right. I don't know whether he actually knows what the dosage level is of Dom Perignon in 2013. I don't know whether they published that information, but it sounds about right.
So for this Dom Perignon, I highly recommend you a spring roll. It's a spring roll with shrimp in it. So this is a deep fried dish. As we have a beautiful Asian with you, so maybe this is an Asian dish.
Well, I don't really know whether he's going to get marked down for this, but this feels a little bit cringy, referring to her as a beautiful Asian, even though she's obviously a beautiful lady, but well, it just feels a little bit weird, but I don't know whether he loses any points on that. So overall, he does a pretty good job, way better than I could ever do it probably, but there are obviously some things that are going to get marked down. But the other candidates also made some mistakes, so I think it was still a kind of open race at this point. So next up is Nina Jensen, who had to do the same service task, but another element of the final exam was a blind tasting of 4 wines, and we're going to check out how she does on that.
Wine number 1, it's a Sauvignon Blanc based wine. It is coming from France. It's a Sancerre in vintage 2020 from producer such as Domaine Vacheron. Wine number 2, it is a it's a Chardonnay based wine. It's coming from Burgundy, France. It is a Chablis in the vintage of 2019 from producers such as Samuel Bilot. Wine number 3. It's coming from Bordeaux, France. It is Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon blend. It's vintage 2017. The producers such as Domaine Chevalier. Wine number 4. It is also white Bordeaux, Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon, vintage 2017. And I think this, in fact, is a little bit more the Domaine Chevalier style.
All right, this is, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how anyone would be able to pick up 4 glasses of wine in a situation like that and identify a wine down to the grape variety and the region. I mean, you can obviously do it, but on a consistent basis, that's very difficult. I know which wines were in those glasses, and well, I gotta say, all of the contestants got pretty much everything wrong about those wines. I don't really know what purpose this actually serves. If they would have had a little bit more time, they could have actually showcased their blind tasting ability in a much better way. I think, well, having all of the finalists of the World Championship fail, basically, at identifying any of the wines is not necessarily a good sign. So I think it would make sense to give them a little bit more time or just serve them less wines in order for them to really be able to taste the wines before they have to make up their mind. But I also have to say, even though no one really identified any of the wines correctly, most of them kind of identified the characteristics of the wine properly. So that clearly shows that they are able to taste. But I think in this setting, it's very difficult to really identify wine. And if that's the task, then maybe change the exam a little bit. So next up is Raymond Thompson. Spoiler alert, he's actually the person who is going to win the competition. And in this challenge, he has 2 wines to taste, and he's supposed to describe them in full detail.
So left glass wine number 1 is a clear and bright red wine with a deep ruby core, light garnet trim, moderate viscosity, no visual CO2 or sediment, and developing appearance. And the nose? The wine is clean, fragrant, with elevated intensity of flavors, dominated by ripe red fruits, red cherry, red plum, a little bit of cassis, so dark fruits as well, combination with dried rose petals, and this wonderful evolution notes, wonderful complexity coming out, leather, smoke, truffle, mushroom, forest floor, very fine oak here as well, I believe partly new. You have some vanilla, toast, baking spices, some cedar, and it is very layered, very complex, and still developing on the palate.
All right. I mean, this is very interesting. It's a different approach to identifying wine or to describing wine than what I would take. I actually think the flavor compounds that he lists are a little bit excessive. I mean, there's actually scientific research showing that it's basically impossible to taste that many flavor compounds in one glass. So maybe limiting yourself to a few less would be better. But I think this is part of the game. You actually have to list as much as you can justify in your description in order to get full marks. So I do understand that.
Wonderful complexity flavors from aging, leather, tobacco, smoke.
A friend of mine actually sent me a clip of this video that is going viral on TikTok and Instagram, and the comments are pretty brutal. There are people saying, so basically the wine has every flavor except grape, or he basically counted every possible aromatic thing in the next 3,000-mile radius, which is a little bit funny, but obviously, I don't think that he would describe a wine in that way in a normal setting when he talks to people. This is just part of this competition. And I don't think that's necessarily the best approach. So the last challenge is kind of fun. They have to identify a wine based on images. They will be shown different images that all have something to do with one wine. If they identify the wine based on the first image, they will get far more points than if they identify it based on the last image. And if they don't identify it at all, they will obviously not get any points. So this is a bit of a fun game you can play along, maybe, with.
What is the wine?
What could it be? Flowers? Art on the label? I have no idea. I actually didn't have any idea. So this might ring a bell if you've been to that place.
No one ready to answer yet? Okay.
Steep vineyard, looking kind of rough and rugged. I kind of know where this is going. Martin, l'Hermitage. You see that on the side of the river.
It would get easier.
So we're in the northern Rhone. Could be Hermitage. It could be Côte
Do you have any
Rôtie.
answers? You can only answer once. If you've already answered, your answer will not count.
So this is a logo, and I think this is Schaaf's logo.
Okay. Last chance to show what you have written.
Yeah,
Now,
she's
please.
also with me, Jean-Louis Schaaf.
There will be no more clues on this wine, so if you want to show it, let's now. All right. Do you want to know what the wine is? All right. The wine will be revealed now. Easy, right? Okay.
Yeah, so Jean-Louis Schaaf, Hermitage, Cuvée, Cateline. So you probably wouldn't even get full points for saying Schaaf, Hermitage. Well, tricky. So there were a few other elements that were not as tricky, some that I found really difficult. Overall, this is a very challenging competition. That's clear. So the winner in the end was Raymond Thompson, and I want to congratulate him personally. But all of the contestants did a really good job. I think this is one of the most challenging moments, must be one of the most challenging moments for a sommelier, doing all those different tasks in front of this huge audience. But it's also a great moment to celebrate the job, the profession of sommeliers. What I would maybe change, and I don't know whether anyone really cares, but I think this competition needs to modernize itself a little bit, starting from the way the candidates are dressed to the way they have to behave. I think today in a restaurant, it's much more about, well, making the guest comfortable. And it doesn't necessarily matter which way you walk around the table or who you serve first. It's more about showing your knowledge, finding great wines, putting them on a list, being able to sell them, being able to entertain the guests. On top of that, I really think this blind tasting format doesn't really work. The candidates don't have enough time to really identify the wines. And nowadays, it's much more complicated than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago, when there were a limited number of wines that you could take into consideration. Today, there's a whole world of wine, and it's very difficult to identify a wine just by sniffing the glass and swirling it quickly and then having to come up with the answer. I think for sommeliers in general, it should be more important maybe to identify quality. Having to say which one out of three is the Village, the Premier Cru and the Grand Cru Burgundy might make more sense, because they have to find great quality for the wine list, for their guests in the restaurant. And this is maybe a challenge that you can fit into a very short amount of time. Also being able to identify flaws in wine. There was actually an element here where they served a flawed wine to all of the three contestants, and no one really noticed the volatile acidity levels in that wine. But I think that's something a really good sommelier should be able to do. I also think there should maybe be a little bit more scientific testing on, well, their understanding of viticulture and enology, even though that's not the core of the job of a sommelier. But customers, guests are getting more and more well educated. So you want to make sure that the people serving those customers have the same detail of understanding. But there were some theory exams beforehand, so I don't really know how deep they went into those topics in the earlier exams. But it's great that this competition exists. I think it's so important that young people are motivated to learn more, to educate themselves and strive to become the best in their profession. That's good for everyone, for the people running restaurants, for the guests coming to restaurants, and also for the sommeliers to kind of, be motivated and really into your profession. And I think this competition does that really well. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please like it down here. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. My question of the day is, what do you think about the Sommelier World Championship? Have you ever heard of it? Do you like it? Do you think it's useful or not? comment down below, let me know. But whatever you do, stay thirsty.